System Shock Remake has finally made its way to console, so we decided to put Shodan through its paces to bring you a fresh review. A review written by PJ O'Reilly for PureXbox.com and turned into video by me. System Shock is just one of those games, isn't it? It's one of those classic computer games that the old folk tell you about. You know, those old folks, the ancient gamers, not me, obviously, you know, constantly yammering on about the System Shocks and, oh, you should have seen Shodan, and you're like, I did see Shodan, and then they go, yeah, but you had to be there. It was like the Beatles, like Kason or something like that. Anyway, we get it. This was good once. But it's 2024 now, Grandma. It's 30 years later, for crying out loud. Why should we be asked? Just because a game comes along and redefines the genre, sets a new standard, and goes on to influence stuff like BioShock and Arcane Austin's stupefyingly great Prey, we're supposed to drop everything and play it? Yeah, right! However, before we all rush out to bonk any and all old fogies on the head with our copies of Deus Ex Mankind Divided... Yeah, that game's past it now. What do you mean it's past it? I'm not old, just play the The problem we have, after sitting down to play this particular revamp project, is that these smelly dinosaurs may actually have a point. Indeed, far from being the boring history lesson some newcomers may expect, or a return visit mostly propped up by nostalgia, System Shock Remake only went and turned out to be one of the very best games we played in 2023. And we're not sure if you remember, but 2023 had quite a few very good games. So, if you're coming to this expecting something pretty decent, but still quite old hat in comparison to the juggernauts it inspired, if you're dragging your feet because there's been too many retro remakes recently, or you aren't interested in the historical angle, we're here to tell you that actually, System Shock circa 2024 can stand shoulder to shoulder with any modern title in this most excellent of genres.
Hey you, tell me I'm young. God damn it!
Nine Dive Studios, the hottest remake team in town right now, has done such a steady job in how it approached the modernization that the whole thing comes off as immediately fresh, vital, and more interesting than 1,000 run-of-the-mill efforts that have passed our way in more recent times. It's still System Shock at its core, meaning it can be rather obtuse if you've never got down and dirty with this sort of retro thing before. You're still all alone on Citadel Station, a single hacker charged with picking apart an enemy-infested space maze presided over by an out-of-control AI. And there are trials and tribulations aplenty to stop you in your tracks. Thankfully, there are also a new raft of tweakable options so you can make various things easier, more approachable, less obtuse should you need to. Playing on default modes, the enemies here don't mess about. They are abrupt to the point of being rude, and you'll be dead before you know it if you attract too many. The puzzles can also be quite taxing, and it's generally the sort of old school scenario where thinking is actively encouraged. Big flashing waypoints onto thing, and you'll need to get to know Citadel Station quite intimately during your playthrough if you want to uncover every secret there is to find. It's not for everyone, basically. Accessibility options and difficulty choices are probably the biggest and best addition in 2024 from a gameplay perspective. These customization options combine with a few areas and sequences that have been redesigned to flow more coherently, making for a System Shock that properly gives newcomers the opportunity to tailor things a little, to take the old school edge off. You can now dial down difficulty options in 4 categories: combat, mission, cyber, and puzzles. Each category can be cycled through easy, normal, and hard modes, allowing you to adjust the complexity of one of the game's junction boxes as an example, make enemies harder or more numerous, or even switch the mission difficulty up so you just have 5 hours to beat Shodan on a permadeath run, and yeah, good luck with that. Woo! Almost got me! Playing around with the in-game options, we were able to find a nice balance, leaving the puzzle aspect of things as tough as possible whilst dialing down the heat and confrontations. These confrontations are still fun, by the way, don't get us wrong. The cyborgs that patrol the station are brutish thugs, bastards who'll snipe you in the back with cheap shots. They're also fantastically squishy and a lot of fun to explode into tiny red giblets. But they're also the game's one true weak point. They are dummies, you see. They don't have any designs on flanking maneuvers. Nobody here has read any Sun Tzu. Why would they when there's games as good as this to play? Let's face it. So you have rather simplistic confrontations from a strategic perspective as a result. Still tough and still fun on the account of the fact that the game's survival horror aspects make ammo and health conservation a priority, thus injecting every scrap with sweaty tension, but doubtless simplistic in comparison to other examples of the genre. This remake sticks very closely to the original layout and gameplay loop, but brings a ton of excellent modernizations with it, even beyond those fancy new difficulty options. Graphically, Night Dive has stuck thrillingly close to the original look, but it's been cleverly embellished, cleaned up, and given all sorts of fancy lighting effects, shadows, reflections, and all of that tasty stuff. Nothing looks out of place. They've refrained from going too far or changing too much, and the end result is something that's immediately fully rooted in its own history and mythos, whilst also coming off as slick and right on the money in terms of currently trending aesthetics. And this is the real meat of this remake. It ensures that a truly great old game is unleashed from its shackles of time and served up as an adventure that's easily digestible by even the most modern consumers. Night Dive has nailed that. And it's also nailed the look. The visuals are a joyous fusion of retro and modern. The sound, soundtrack, and all the eye and ear candy is 100% on point. Yes, we haven't gone into detail on the story, please just go in as blind as possible, but that's all still as weird and creepy and enthralling as ever. Shodan, most importantly perhaps, is still a terrifying presence, and none of the feelings of claustrophobia that we guess come from crawling around inside the very enemy you must destroy have been diminished by the passage of time, or by this masterfully delicate reworking. This is another must-play straight off the back of the sublime Quake 2 for Night Dive, and you love to see it. System Shock Remake is another sublime piece of work from Night Dive Studios. This is a return to a seminal classic that studiously retains everything that's so beloved about the 1994 original, whilst giving modern gamers an experience they can comfortably play and enjoy. It nails the remit of making this space survival masterclass vital once more, and it's a must-play all day long when it's looking and playing as beautifully as it does on Xbox. If it wasn't for some brain-dead enemies, we'd be looking at a perfect score. But hey, this'll do nicely too. As always, thanks for watching, folks. Let us know if you'll be snagging System Shock Remake on Xbox this week. And all that's left to say is bye-bye for now. Cheerio!